Paul Mort, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Mate, thank you for having me on. I'm very excited.
Well,
very
thank you
excited.
for having me, because we're actually using your studio.
I love it. I love it.
So thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Everyone does a big, like, you're this, you're that, you're the other, and we can do all of that. You know, we can wave that wand and
I
tell
can feel
everyone.
my balls tingling already.
Absolutely.
If you want to do that.
But I don't want to do that. I want
All
to
right.
ask, who is the Paul Mort that we see today?
Who's the Paul Mort that we see here today? Well, dad, first of all, husband, secondly, businessman. That's probably me identity wrapped up in one thing. That's me.
That's you?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes, like, there are loads of other things around it. You're known by many other kind of names, niches. You cover lots of different things. You've absolutely blown up during the last few years as well. So oftentimes people do the whole CV because you are an author, you are a podcast host, you know, now a stand-up comedian. We've just been talking about that.
Well, we're saying that very loosely. We're saying that very loosely.
If you're standing up and you're producing what you think, like, you laugh at your own jokes, so it's standing up in comedy. It's there.
Ask for advice on the stand-up thing. My friend Russell said, if you think it's funny, tell it. And there was a couple of jokes that no one else laughed at, but I had a scream, so.
I'm having fun, who else cares? So you're known under all of these different guises.
Yes.
And I love that you've started with dad first, because before we hit start, we were talking all about the kids, etc.
Yeah.
I want to know what really makes you tick.
Ooh. I'll tell you what really makes me tick, and I'll go a bit vague on this. What makes me tick is living a life that demonstrates my values to me and everybody else.
What are your values?
So my values are not things like honesty, integrity, and things like that. I think those are traits that I try and live by. Mm-hmm. But values are the things that I think about a lot, the things that I could talk about without any, like, I could talk about something for days, things that I read about, that I watch, that I listen to, that I do without needing incentivized. So for me, business is actually one of those things.
Passionate about them.
Passionate about things that I could spend hours talking about, things that I talk about without even being invited to talk about it. Mm-hmm. One of my highest values is randomly football. I love football. I didn't do it for a bit. It's one of those things that when you're building a business, you think you have to sacrifice. Oh, I can't go to football anymore. It's work. You can't do those things. You can't watch. Oh, you're a businessman that watches TV. You can't be serious. Hang on, you don't get up before 5 a.m. Are you a serious businessman? I've done all that. Yeah. I've sacrificed all of that. And then just, that's how mental it is. Someone come to an event upstairs in the classroom. As soon as they mention where they're from, I'll mention, like, oh, who's the best player that's played for them? They're like, Paul, I don't even like football. I'm like, tough shit, I do. So football's one of them. Combat sports will be one of them. Being on stage, showing off is one of them. Like, I've got no problem saying that. So even in business now, when I'm in business, I've built the entire thing, not necessarily be profitable. I mean, we're a profitable business and I love it, but it's the task that I do inside of the business that I love the most. Mm-hmm. So I tend to do nothing but talk. I do a little bit of writing in my daily email, but I love doing that as well. But talking, passing on my experience, my knowledge, my lived experiences, talking about myself, coaching people, mentoring people. That's the shit that lights me up inside. That's the shit that I would probably do even if I didn't get paid for it. Yeah. Like, I've just accepted a gig there, and he couldn't believe that. The guy that was in before, he was like, I'll be honest with you, my budget's not massive. It's a big opportunity for me. It's in a big theatre in Sunderland. I was like, mate, I'll do it for free. He was like, really? I was like, it's a local gig. Loads of business owners there. And I love being on stage. Like, I don't normally it's mad this. I get flown all over the world to talk, and I never, ever even get considered for anything local. I do realise that I've got a potty mouth. I do realise that I don't have much of a filter, but I'm also like, you're flying this guy. I'm better than him. It drives me insane a little bit. So when he was like, Paul, do you want to open the event? Yes. That bottled at the last one. I was like, you want me to open the event? Hell yeah, I'll do it for free.
Wow.
How many dicks do I have to suck? I'm joking.
Are you though?
But yeah, I mean, I would. Scared to try it in case I like it, actually. But it's that. So my values are, I suppose, impacting people. I love. A friend of mine died a couple of years ago, and I really struggled with it. He was a barber, Stoney the barber, legend of South Shields. Stoney, Alan Stone. Madly enough, his cousin was a famous footballer. He's assistant manager at Everton.
Ooh.
Is Everton your team or is Liverpool your team? Or neither?
Two teams in Liverpool and Liverpool reserves.
So his cousin is assistant manager at Everton, Steve Stoney he's called. Anyway, Stoney died, and I really struggled with it. I'm actually blessed and lucky enough. I haven't actually experienced much death. I've been to 3 funerals ever.
Wow.
Isn't that mad? So he died, and he was the same age as me, kids the same age as mine. Nina went to school with his son. I'd seen him 2 days before. He opened his shop illegally to cut me hair and do me beard because I was on a podcast or something. And he just dropped dead. And I was like, I struggled with it. And a mentor that I had at the time was like, Paul, there must be some kind of gift in this for you. I was like, well, it's fucking death. There's no gift.
Yeah.
And then I realised one thing I learned from Stoney was that every time I seen him, he was the best part of me day. No matter what had happened, like I loved seeing him. You'd bump into him and you'd be like buzzing to see him because he had that much energy about him. I like to think that when I learned that from him, one of my values is just you have an opportunity to have an impact on, you leave an imprint on someone every time you see them.
Good or bad?
Good or bad. So I suppose that's one of my values,
of
impacting people. And a big thing for me is, why do I do what I do is something I get asked. Well, I love being paid really well.
Yeah.
Like I do love doing that. And I think that you doing what I do, your income is a direct correlation to how many people you help and how good you are at it. Do you know what I mean? Like money's an exchange of value, but actually, one of the main reasons I do it is because I don't want people to feel like I felt back in the day when I was rock bottom. And more importantly, I had this conversation with a guy who I had on my podcast this morning. I don't want other people's family to have to go through what mine went through. And that's the big thing. From what fills me heart is when someone says, guy this morning said, Paul, you changed my life. I was like, well, I didn't do that. You did it. I just told you what to do. I give you a few tools. You didn't have to use them and you did.
That's a proper coach though.
It is a proper coach. So then he told me a story about his daughter got kicked out of school, no GCSEs, and had a meltdown. She was like, what am I going to do with my life? And 2 years later, she's now running a business as a beauty therapist. They've built like a salon in the back garden,
like a little garden.
She's making more money than him, and I was like, shit, mate, I had a full on meltdown on my podcast. I was like, mate, that is sensational. So when you hear, because you're not just changing someone's life, it is a ripple effect. We get cards here all of the time, not from the members, ungrateful bastards. It's
paid you.
But it's but from their families, and I'm like, holy shit, that fills my heart like right up. So that's kind of, I don't even know if I've answered the question. But
you absolutely have, but now talking. I've got a million questions off the back of that.
Let's go then.
So first thing first, I'm going to go all the way back to you talking about kind of before we talked about impact.
Yes.
You talked about what really makes you tick now, and it's kind of moving away from where you were.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you had to do all of those things? So with that, to realise that you don't need to do the 5 a.m. start and, that's the middle of my day. It becomes a willy waving contest. Oh, you got up at 3, I got up at 2, and it's wave the willy.
The only time I'm getting up then is when I'm going on holiday. You know
I'm with you on that one. It's the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But do you think you had to do it and test it?
Yeah.
And that kind of links then to that, we see that replicated. Did she, your, podcast guest daughter, did she have to have, in the perception of many people, walk out with no GCSEs to realise actually it's shit or bust?
I think part of it you have to, but I think part of us gets sucked into that as well. Like, I'm like, if someone's doing it and it looks, and sometimes we're being told what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I had to try that and think, well, I hate this to get there. I think we've got to try a bunch of things. I mean, funnily enough, a lot of the things that I do in my life right now, I have taken the piss out of at some point.
Yep.
Ice baths.
Until you've
you
tried
think you're hard, do you? I have taken the journaling for teenage girls. Why would I do that? Meditation, hippie shit. Do you know what I mean? Jiu-jitsu, rolling around the floor with other men with tight clothes on. Gay. So, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you're allowed to say that. Apparently do you know this one? Zesty is the new way to say that.
Zesty?
Oh, he's
I'm
zesty.
just old.
Well,
I didn't know that.
Do you know what rizzing is yet? Oh, I've rizzed her up.
No, I've heard he's got Riz or she's got Riz.
Chatted up, that is. He's got banter, Riz. He's got Riz. I had an education last week in the car.
Really old. How old was the person giving you this education?
13 and 11. Both my kids, I risen. I was like, well, I rizzed your mum right up. I thought it meant something different. I thought I meant jizz, but but yeah, it's, I think, I definitely had to go through all of those things to just realise whether I liked it, whether I didn't like it. I'm sure at some point it worked for me. And I think one of the things that I became over the last 5 or 6 years, I'm a lot more open-minded. Like, I don't have to hate it. I don't have to do things that I hate. And I think it's a big fallacy in the personal development world that you have to do things that you hate all the time. Do you know what I mean?
So you've kind of come full circle to that. I've tried and tested all of those things. I gave up football. I gave up the stuff that I wanted because everyone told me that I had to.
Yeah.
You've now got to the point where it's like everything is on your terms. I'll do it if I want to do it. The kids are going to
I think I don't think we can build a life where sometimes I have to eat shit. So, for example, right now I'm having to turn down opportunities that I really don't want to turn down, but it's because my schedule's already full.
Yeah.
It's not as though my schedule's full of things that I hate. I got offered a chance to go in this invite-only mastermind where you didn't have to pay, you just had to be at a certain level, and I was like, fucking hell, there's some ballers in there.
I've been picked.
I've been picked, and I was like, I can't go. Not just because it was in Milton Keynes and I don't want to go to Milton Keynes. But I was like, it was too short notice, and I was like, I can't go. And I got offered another opportunity. I'm like, I can't do that either. That's my biggest, it's a first world problem. A little bit. But it's not as though I'm doing something that I hate. I hate saying no to big opportunities, especially when you first get started in business, you say yes to everything.
Absolutely.
Yes. You have to.
I also think exactly that.
Yeah.
I also think saying yes to everything gets you where you need to be, because you're willing to do stuff that other people aren't willing to do. Yeah. And that kind of makes you who you are. And you've always been, a little bit more out there and a little bit more open. Before we hit record, we were saying that I met you through Chris Brown originally, or met who you were. Yeah. That was my, in the snow doing burpees, hating life.
2012 or something.
It was 2012, yeah. It was early 2012. I was getting married in the September. I was, I was like the biggest advocate of it. I'd gone from, eating cake, and because I put all my weight on in the tail end of my pregnancy. Yeah. Ate cake daily, walk daily. So it was like, I'm all right. I'm walking. I'm out training. It wasn't doing it. Yeah. And it was polar opposite to what I was expecting and what I was used to. The first session, we did it in Sefton Park. It was pissing down. It was absolutely freezing, gravel on my hands. I had to go and be sick behind a tree. Oh. And Chris is like, are you coming back? And I'm thinking, oh my God, I was running away at this point. And it's doing the hard things that get to the good things. It is.
And it's funny, because I just think in this game where like you have to get up, you just have to do shit that you hate all the time. And then I'm like, I did that for so long that I ended up fucking hating my life. Yeah. Even though I generated some results and I was doing pretty well business-wise, I was like, well, and I always remember an old mentor of mine, Dax Moore, he said something like, you can't create a life that you love constantly doing shit that you loathe. Like, there's no happy ending to an unhappy journey. Like, I don't think there is.
Juice worth the squeeze?
Is the juice worth the squeeze?
That's my kind of...
And there's a mad parody, which is, isn't it mad that we build out plans full of shit that we hate and then hate ourselves when we don't do them? I'm like, what kind of fucked up world is that? Oh, I can't get out of bed in the morning, I keep hitting snooze. I'm like, why'd you make the first couple of things that you hate then? I can't wait to get out of bed, because I'm not every day, but I'm like, I can't wait to do that. Because I'm doing shit that I love doing first thing in the morning. And it's weird that.
But is that also a mindset thing as well? Because we'll obviously go there, and we've got to make reference to the fact that when we walked into the studio this morning, you come in, you give me a hug, and then you were like, it was like when the kids come home and they're like, oh, Mum, and then they go, oh, there's Dad. Because you went, oh, hiya, give me a hug, and then you went, oh my God, Mark. So Mark, the videographer.
Yeah.
Hi, Mark.
Super Mark.
Super Mark.
Everyone in the world knows who Mark is now, man.
But we were talking this morning, so Mark's been doing some videography for my podcast on location for a little while. We've known each other for a long time, and I did not know that he shot the video. Yeah. And when I say the video, anyone who's been a follower of yours will know and understand what this is. Yeah. It was literally this morning outside in the car park, and I'm like, Paul, don't you? And yeah, I shot this video, and I was like, the video. So for those people who don't know the video, we need to make reference to this, because this video's got how many millions of views now?
12 million.
12 millions of views. Mark and I were talking this morning.
I've got 6 million on a version where I swear, and 6 million on an edited version where we had to bleep the swearing out for a bit.
But that's not really you, is it? The edited version.
It sounds terrible, because I swear that much is just
12. It's like, people think the sound's
it's like a flatlined. It's mad.
But as much as we make light of this, this video is huge and so impactful.
Changed my life.
It's not just changed your life, though, because we were talking about this video. Yeah. But actually, the video is so impactful, and for anyone, we'll actually put links to it so that everyone can see it. But it's not just that; it's what you read underneath, and this is what Mark and I were talking about this morning: the likes, the shares, the comments, the literally people in there saying, "This video, you've changed my life or saved my life." So let's make reference to, first of all, what the video is, and then we'll go back to why the video came about.
Video was my story of what it felt like to be suicidal, despite having everything, which a lot of people, the criticism that I do get was like, well, what did you have to be suicidal about? Try having real problems. I'm like, it's not a dick measuring contest to see who's got the smallest dick. Do you know what I mean? Depression didn't give a fuck. Bipolar didn't give a fuck about it. In fact,
My
made it
problems
worse.
are worse than
It actually
your
made it
problem.
worse because I had more money to spend on coke. Do you know what I mean? It made the whole thing worse. So the video, Mark will tell you, wasn't planned. There's no fucking script. I couldn't do that anyway. I'd fuck it up. There was no script. It was just from my heart. It was just something I needed to say. I'd never even talked about it before. And I think the reason that it resonated so much with people is because people can tell that it was real. It wasn't out of a book. It wasn't. There was no quotes from someone else.
Yeah.
There was no text like read. There's nothing that I'd read that I said. I just described what it was like, and people are like, "Oh shit, I've never heard anyone say it like that except me in my head."
Yeah.
So I think that resonated with it. But the mad part about that video is that I reckon it sat on my hard drive back when hard drives were a thing. It sat somewhere for a year minimum, and I didn't post it.
Before releasing it?
Yes. And the reason was because that I was worried. I was like, we'll post them on YouTube, the Deadpool one.
Yeah.
Mark, remember that, Mark? The Deadpool bit.
Did Mark shoot the Deadpool one
Mark shot
as
the
well?
Deadpool bit. So that's the YouTube version.
Yep.
But I hadn't posted it on Facebook at all because I was just fucking scared.
What were you scared of?
The same thing that everyone's scared of, what people would say. What people might think. If my mates see it, what they're going to think. Me mum sees it, me dad sees it and stops me pocket money. Do you know what I mean? Like, what if me fucking gran sees it? Because I'm talking about some gnarly shit in there. I'm talking about boozing, I'm talking about porn, I'm talking about gambling, I'm talking about cocaine. I'm talking about all of that shit that at that point I don't think many people were talking about.
Yeah.
So I was scared to drop it, and then I think some of them must have just went, fuck it, I've got to get that up. And then I got it up, and funnily enough, and I talk about this when I'm keynoting, the comments that you're talking about weren't the first ones that I got.
Was it negativity?
Negativity. You should have jumped.
Does that not just fuel you?
At the time, I hated it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know how to deal with it. I'd argue back with them. I'd banter back with them. I'd get involved with bullshit. Some of them I probably sent me a address to and said, fucking, let's go then, daft cunt.
No, probably you did. Let's be honest,
dance,
you did.
Let's dance. I did. And then so all the things that and no one ever talks about this, all the things that I was worried about happening actually happened. And I didn't know how to deal with it. But, I mean, now, I'll say Mark's known all over the world because I've told that story hundreds of times on stages all over the world. Hollywood, fucking, honestly, in Hollywood. Not the one over the river there. We have a Hollywood in Wall's End. But in the actual Hollywood, I've told the story in fucking Puerto Rico. I've told it in Dubai. I've told it at Wembley. I've told it at all these big events. And when I share those pictures, people are blown away that people say that. Because no one shares those negative comments. They only share the positive ones.
And because 99% of people would never even dream of thinking that. They're a small selection of people. But isn't it interesting how usually they're the ones who have a voice? They've got, zero
always
fucks
fat
to give.
men with dogs. Not kidding.
Sitting in their underpants eating pot noodle. This is literally, they're in the mum's basement. And that's quite often, I think, a cry for help when they are.
Oh, it is.
It's all,
I started realising, not really early on, but I started realising actually that comment, even if my name's in it, isn't really about me.
Yeah, it's never about you.
It's to make themselves feel better.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, okay, you've said your thing. At least they're saying it to me and not someone that can't handle it. But I did a video recently where I shared the comments on Instagram, and the video's got 250,000 views or something. I basically said, I'm used to criticism and I'm okay with it, but these comments here are not okay. And it got Vicky Patterson, my friend from Geordie Shore. She shared it, and it fucking blew up. And people can't believe that people say that.
That's exactly
I'm like, that's every day. These are just a few. I get it every day. Sometimes in my inbox.
Do you think that was a blessing that you waited to release the video?
Yes, I think so. But honestly, I get
raw.
so much content from the negative comments now. Yeah. Like when I bring that up on the stage, people are blown away.
But that's a mindset thing to be able to deal with. That's huge.
And I didn't have it straight away.
Exactly that.
I didn't have it straight away. And it was either learn to deal with this or keep spending hours arguing with people on the internet.
How do you create that kind of resilience? Because one thing that you absolutely are is resilience. You're using it to fuel you now.
Yeah.
I'll often say, and I've skewed my figures because I used to say I'm 99% driven by a desire to succeed and 1% by spite, but actually it's full tilt the other way.
Yeah.
Anyone tells you can't or you shouldn't,
Yeah,
that really fuels me. Yeah. But it never when I was younger.
Yeah.
I was the people pleaser. I wanted everybody to love
like
me.
Yeah.
The fear of judgment. So I would often not say things. How do we build this up? How did you do it?
Well, I did
it
because one of the reasons I was rock bottom, Tony, is because that I didn't have the courage to be myself publicly. Mm-hmm. So I'm a dirty bastard. Love dirty jokes. Love being rude. Love banter. Love
It's just you.
It's just me. And then publicly, I wasn't really doing that. And then people would come into my world and they'd suddenly be upset by the things that I was saying. And it was because I wasn't being fully me on the outside. I remember a conversation I had with Mark, actually. He was like, Paul, I know all these different versions of you. Which one is it? I'm like, all of them. I'm fucking all of them. I still remember the conversation because I've never been asked that question before by someone that had the balls to ask, because it's quite a ballsy question, that. Yeah. Which one of these versions is you? I was like, man, every single fucking one of them.
Depends what day of the week it is, what mood I'm in.
Depends if I'm on my period or not. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, I am all of those people, but that was part of the reason I had the meltdown, because I wasn't me. And then people would come in, I'm like, why are they suddenly stepping away from me?
Because they'd never seen those facets of you
I'd never seen that publicly.
Was there one defining moment where it was like, do you know what? This is my opportunity to go. Take me or leave me. If you like me, then you do. What was the defining moment? Because we will talk about what
it would have been around that moment where I was ready to kill myself.
So
it wouldn't have been that moment. But
yeah,
there would
of
have
course,
been
it's hindsight.
there would have been a realisation of all those. Do you know what's mad? My memory of that period of my life is awful.
Is it so hazy because you blocked it out?
Said to me, we did a podcast and he said, Paul, remember when we did that?
I remember listening to this podcast. Yeah. Your look on your face was like, no, never done that.
My memory of that period in my life is terrible. I think it's because I was, well, you got to consider I was on a cocktail of medication from the doctor, but I was still sniffing myself inside out every weekend. Like, so my memory of that time is terrible, but that whole month of December and January, that was really the period of change for me.
And this was 2014.
2014, that period, December, January, a lot of things happened. There was the Clifford incident. There was Christmas Day where I had to spend it on my own with the Suicide Watch team. Because I was so volatile that Lesley couldn't be around me. She didn't want the kids around me. I didn't want them around me. And then there was periods over that time where I met a lady called Donna. Donna was... It's just... Donna, I love this. I've been trying to get on my podcast for fucking 4 years. She won't come on.
None of it. Why?
Because she kind of doesn't want people to know who she is. Because she works with a lot of really...
That's because of what she does.
I didn't like to be considered this, but I was vulnerable. I didn't really... You know, when you say vulnerable people, I was vulnerable. And I hated being called that, by the way. I'm like, I'm this big hard cunt. Do you know what I mean? I'm this big hard cunt. I'm not vulnerable. But she basically told me what I needed to hear. There was a lot of... In my life then, I was getting mollycoddled by a lot of people.
Telling you what you wanted to hear.
Tell me what I wanted to hear. I was amazing. You're this, you're that. And I quite like that now. But
that's also because of where you were. Because to put this into context before we get to 2014, you know, we've mentioned that 2012 you were doing the boot camps. You'd set up your company. You'd set up Lean Greens. You were making shed loads of money. You had what many people would deem to be the perfect life. Yeah. And we're definitely going to come back to this because I have so many theories around the perfect life, which actually is polar opposite. And we have to experience that, or people do, before they realise full tilt the other way. So you've got this epic life. As a result of that, you've got people blowing smoke up your arse telling you you're amazing, you can do whatever you want, blah, blah, blah.
King of the dickheads.
So what was it that Donna did or said that had such an impact on you?
I still remember it clearly. Donna didn't say anything. There was a time she turned up. I had to see her every single week. She'd come and visit me in my old office, which is nicknamed Fritzl's basement. It was fucking wild. That was a bad one. It was a mad office, this one. Anyway, it was weird. It had a boxing ring in it. That's how mad it was. Right?
Random
but
thing.
Donna, one time, she turned up and I was hungover. In fact, I was hungover 2 days after I'd been on the session. It was a Monday. I'd been out on a Saturday. She looked at me over the top of her glasses. Like my mum used to look at me over the top of her glasses. And I was like, Donna's not.
The look that says, I'm not angry, I'm disappointed.
She wasn't trying to give me approval. She wasn't trying to praise me for doing well. It was the disappointed look.
Wow.
And I was like, shit, this is a fucking, And that was one of the moments that started me thinking, fucking hell. It was another one of the moments where you have these should do's. I should probably stop that. But everything that started piling up of that period, they started to become must do's. What I don't mention a lot of the time is that actually 2014, the year that I had that meltdown, the biggest part of the meltdown was actually a year where I'd actually started to get my shit together. So I'd learned about the meditation stuff. I'd learned a lot of stuff. I joined a men's group. But actually it made it worse because I realised that before that I was doing the best I could with what I knew. But then I had this thing where actually now I know better. And I'm still not doing it.
Even more guilt.
So there was guilt because I'm like, I know. Before I didn't know what to do. I'd be like, well, I'm bipolar, so of course I'm going to do this.
That was your excuse.
Oh, it was my get-out clause. It was me crutch. It was the drama. Oh, well, I'm bipolar. That's why I said that. I'm bipolar. That's why I need to get on the drink and the sniff. This is just what men do to de-stress and unwind. So that's what I did before, and then I learned all this stuff, and I was like, oh shit.
I can't give myself
And
permission
I'm not doing
anymore.
it. I'm not doing it. So that actually piled even more guilt on, and made me feel even more fucking useless and like a burden, despite evidence that was to the contrary everywhere else. It's mad. But yeah, it was that period of January and December that year. Those were the ones that really woke me the fuck up, if you like. That got me out of autopilot. And there was just a series of little things that happened.
It's
and
so
I'm so
refreshing
glad it
to
did.
hear that, though, that it's a series of little things. Because a lot of people
I had this
that
light
you
bulb
will,
moment.
yeah. And, you know, now I realise, and it was after that, but it's so refreshing to hear, actually.
Little build-up of little things.
But the honesty around it as well. You know, there must be a huge amount of guilt that you either carried or still carry, where you go, you've got a wife, you've got these 2 kids who are dependent on you, you've got everything that many people
Well,
would
there's a
deem
couple
to
of
be
other
the
things
best
that I'll
thing.
throw on top, and these were both very powerful moments at the same time. Christmas Eve that year, I went out on a drink through the day, and I got so pissed that I couldn't build the Thomas the Tank Engine train set. Had to get me dad round. Me dad, again, never said a fucking word. He's not a talker, me dad. He's not like me. He's not a talker. He's a closed fucking book when it comes to emotions. I've seen him cry once, and that was my sister's wedding. And he still joked about it. Do you know what I mean? That's what we do. And then I could tell he was, what the fuck are you? He didn't say anything. Still hasn't. And I could tell he was thinking, what the fuck are you doing?
Why am I here having to do
What
this?
the fuck are you doing? And then there was another incident, which was on the cliff, where Lesley said to me, think of the kids. And I said, I am. They'll be better off without me. I truly believe that. And she said, well, think about the kids then growing up as those kids whose dad killed himself. Out of all of that, that was probably the one that was like, oh, shit, that's bang on. Like, that was like, she doesn't know where them words came from, but those are the ones that still resonate with me the most now. Like, if I couldn't do it for me, because I didn't think I deserved to get better, I thought I was a waste of fucking space. I thought I was a burden on everybody. I thought I was a inconvenience for everybody. I thought that nobody liked me. I actually said the words, no one would even give a fuck if I killed myself. But those were the words that, like, that just resonates with me most. That was the shit that really woke me up. That was the one where I'm like, yeah, I've got a responsibility now. And I still think about that now. If I can't do for me, I have to do for these. I'm always like, I'm a demonstration. That's my ultimate thing. Like, I'm a demonstration to my kids what's possible.
Don't just tell
I'm
them,
not just
show
talking
them.
about, like, this blew me head off. My son's very quiet. And I never preach to, I try never to preach to them. It's not really my thing. If they're not into what I'm into, that's fine.
Yeah.
When they were younger, I used to try and force them to do things that I liked, and it made them hate it.
Which will then make them hate
football,
you as a
they
result,
hated. Jiu-jitsu, the fucking
No, but
ended
it's
up
good.
hating.
You've got to enjoy it.
You're going to enjoy it.
You will have fun.
Just get the eye, and they hated it. And then the other week, I went into my son's bedroom, and he was on a Zoom call, right?
He's like, what, 13?
With his
14?
mindset coach,
Oh my
who's
God.
Sunderland's captain. He's a bit fanboying. And he was making notes, at 13, making notes on a Zoom call. And then this moment, probably one of the most proudest moments of my life for him, he put his hand up and asked a question on Zoom. And
Is this in a group with other people?
In a group with other people that he doesn't know,
Wow.
to his hero. And I was like, who is this kid? And I was just like, that was just one of them things where I was like, he sees me on Zoom all the time.
Yep.
He knows that's what I do. And I'm like, shit, it doesn't seem like a major thing, but I'm like, actually, imagine what he's going to be like when he's 18.
Do you know what?
He's on Zoom now making notes and asking the Sunderland captain for a training plan.
It's them impact. You talked
It's
about
little.
impact
It's
before.
little.
But it's just like with the what led to you being on the cliff that day.
Mm-hmm.
It was a culmination of lots of little things. And it's the same thing, because you can have all the accolades, you can win all of the titles and the trophies.
You can be struck by lightning, that's the lightning. But sometimes it's not about the lightning, it's about all this fucking rain that pours on you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's like death by 1,000 cuts.
Oh, do you know what? That's the second time I've heard that phrase in this week.
Is it?
Interesting.
Wow, that's mad.
I am a firm believer in things happening, for a reason. And
Yeah. What happened for you?
It was Catherine this morning when we came in, and she was like, this was meant to happen, because I had no idea that you
That's
and Mark
wild,
hadn't seen
innit?
each other in
That's
such a long
wild.
time. The odds of it being, like, he's from Doncaster, you're from here, I'm from Liverpool.
Yeah.
It's just, these things shouldn't, but they do, and I'm a big believer in all of that.
I feel bad now. I've been telling everybody on stages all over the world that my video guy is from Sheffield. Wow. Okay,
Well, actually,
there's
same horse, different jockey. Around that area.
Honestly, I've told that story to thousands of people.
You're going to have to put an edit now, not from
dude,
Sheffield,
not
from Donny.
Sheffield, from Donny. Donny sounds more northern though, doesn't it? Next up, racegoers. It's from Doncaster, next at Racecourse.
See, I thought I was at this point where I'm thinking, is there anything that Paul can't do? And I've just realised it's that accent.
Wait until you hear my Irish one. I've got an Irish one where it sounds like I'm from Bangladesh.
Ireland via India. I like it.
Correct. Goodness gracious me. Yeah.
It genuinely is really refreshing, and isn't it interesting how when we're talking about like your successes and what you've done, because there are tons of them, you know, you've got some massive accolades in there, the stages that you've spoken on, the lives that you've impacted, the books, the podcast, you know, winning awards for your coaching, etc. And they're the things that you'll be remembered for. But actually, and I'm a massive fan of Maya Angelou, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. And it's that where, you know, your son's going to remember that. I remember that time my dad walked into my room and I was on Zoom and I asked that question. No, but it is. And like, we're all leaving. You mentioned the word impact, and I stand on stages similarly to you and I use that word regularly. The fact that we are making an impact in everyone's life, because sometimes people think, oh, we're not. If you are, and I thought radiator earlier on, I use an analogy of radiators and drains. So everyone in life is either a drain and they suck the life fun out of everything, or when you see them, they just light you up. And when you were talking about your friend Stoney, and it's like he's, you know, he's the best part of your day. And that we make decisions, whether we know we do or not. It's conscious. If you wake up and you think I'm going to be a miserable fucker today, it's a decision and we can change it. But it's also not the easiest thing to do. So I love interviewing people, and I think we're going to give people gold in this, but I also want to give actionable points. Because so often there's, you know, a good friend of mine, David, he calls it the wind and piss. There's always wind and piss around it, but what's the reality? So what actionable points?
Piss,
wind
I
and
like
piss.
That, you know.
He's fabulous,
I think
David.
I'm going to steal that one.
David,
you should mention my son, you know. I'll just mention my son there. You're saying it's a good impact on him. Well, last week he came to me comedy gig and I stitched him right up. Because I once caught him having a shit with a VR headset on.
Just trying to make it more
so
real.
I have this bit in the set where I talk about Instagram and social media. I'm like, both my kids have blocked me on Instagram because apparently I'm cringe. And I'm like, and now he's here, I'm going to get you back. You ready with this, son? And I tell the joke about I caught him having a shit with a VR headset on. Do you know his justification? Me phone's dead. I was like, what? How does that make it okay?
It's bizarre that's made
Well,
it.
then a week later, I caught him shaving his pubes with my beard trimmer. And then he said, oh, Dad, I was shaving my eyebrow. I was like, well, how have you got a perfectly square bush? But he loves it. He loves stand-up. Like, luckily enough, now he's a bit taller. So he gets into a lot of the stand-up gigs that he shouldn't really get into.
He looks older than he is.
Sometimes I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, oh, shit, he shouldn't be. So I'm friends with Dapper Laughs. And Dapper Laughs, all he talks about is boozing, sniffing coke and shagging. And like, he talked the other week about thumbing into his last one. He's been on the sesh. And his 13-year-old son's sitting there, and I'm thinking he shouldn't really be here, but yeah.
Well, this is something that
It's
we
a really
definitely need
interesting
to
thing.
touch upon because you've obviously owned who you are. The big realisation for you, whether it was one instant or a multitude of different things that's led to you realising, is that why you are the happy-go-lucky person that we see 99% of the time? Because sometimes you'll be like, I'm having a down day,
I get like that fairly often, grumpy
but you also share it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the... You know, so many people see the Instagram version. I'm not going to name the people because when I do, I'm
the perfect version, the highlight reel.
Like, this is me and my world. There's a picture of us. You know, they're at each other's throats.
My life so much.
My world, my blah, blah, my blah, blah. And it's like, no, actually, we know that that's what the world sees.
Yeah.
But I know that when we see one another, you're just going to be complaining that he's, like, ruining your life. You are very much an open book. Are the kids, because obviously these videos that are all out there, and like you're sharing stuff about Max now, where now he's probably thinking, oh my God, the reason I've blocked you is because you tell people all my stuff. Might just tag him in some of the posts just in case.
And this is such a great question, you know, because I do think about it fairly often. Should they be seeing this? I remember the first theatre gig I ever did, we did the Tyne Theatre at 1,200 people. The kids had never really seen me speak before, particularly on that. So my opening in that show was like literally how have I ended up on this cliff, and I tell the whole story. And Lesley actually made them miss that part.
Really?
She took them into the green room where a couple of my friends, where my agent was in there. She made them hang out with them,
so they weren't aware what they were missing.
So they didn't see it, and then they came in. But then it just got to a point where I was like, how much longer do I want to shield them from this? They're going to hear it eventually. They're going to see it eventually. And I'm sure they're better hearing it from me than hearing it from someone else.
I love that.
Yeah, like they've got all their friends following me on Instagram now. There's one girl in his class who comments on all my TikTok. I didn't even know how to TikTok account. Connor runs it for me. I went on for a week and people gave me so much shit that I was like, oh my God, these are 10-year-olds giving me shit.
I love that.
So then Max, there's a girl from Max's school that comments on my video saying, oh, I'm in love with your son. I've been on a date with your son and that. And Connor keeps going, Paul, do you want me to say anything?
This is giving you gold. All of this stuff.
It is, but I'm like, do I use that in a motivational talk or a stand-up? But it's kind of blending in two now. So I avoided the question on, I want to come back to that because I know that's an important question for you. Practically, what do you need to know?
Yep. Like, there are going to be people at all different stages, the death by 1,000 cuts,
Yes.
who are at cut one where they're thinking this is a bit shit.
Yes.
Or they're at the point where they're thinking those same things. Because when you said that, I got goosebumps thinking, how often do people actually get to a point where they think, no one would notice if this happened or no one would care?
Mm-hmm.
And they're two different things. People noticing is one thing,
Yes.
people caring.
People knowing is the problem. If people don't know, like that was my problem. People didn't know that I was rock bottom.
But why was it just the fear of judgment? Was it fear of, I've got no right to feel this way when other people would love my life?
A little bit of that. But also I didn't want to talk about it because I already felt like a huge burden. I already thought I was making everyone's life harder. I was like, everyone's life's harder with me in it. So if I then tell them, because I was volatile as fuck, I'd go missing for days at a time, turn my phone off. It was all cries for help, really. But I already felt like a problem for people, so I didn't want to put more problems on their plate when I knew Lesley was struggling.
Yeah.
She had a newborn. She had a 2-year-old. We just moved back home. She had a fucking 34-year-old baby. Hairy baby. Hairy baby.
Third child.
And like, I didn't want to put anything else on her because I already felt like a nightmare for her.
This is so common, though, that when you hear, because, you know, thank God, and it's Lesley we have to thank for the fact that she, like, why was she there? How did she know? Because obviously it's not something that where you've gone,
all the time.
Oh, I'm going to go and, you know, hi everyone, quick
Lesley
intro.
Lesley would, it sounds a bit stalkery, this, it sounds a bit baby reindeer, but Lesley would, when she knew I was on one, she'd just follow me. So that day, she actually had to leave Nina in the car. 6 months old Nina must have been then, maybe a little bit older. She had to leave her in the car and follow me.
Do you think she had a sixth sense and knew it, or was it just
a little bit, but she'd follow me
bit?
all over. Sometimes I drive to Weatherby for no reason, and then she'd be there. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
How does it make you feel knowing that you made her feel like that?
Guilt. But I wouldn't say huge amounts. This is going to sound weird because all of that has led to where we are now, which is like, fucking hell. We're in a fucking great place. Do you know what I mean? There's not many other people, not many other couples that can do what we do at the level we do that.
Yeah.
People that like, we get interviewed fairly often, both of us at the same time. They're like, well, when you get home, do you like switch off from work? I'm like, no, why would we? We love it.
Yeah.
Why would we have a rule of no work at home? We both value what we do very highly. We both have very different roles in the business.
But it also shows that you love it because you don't have to switch off from it.
Nah, I do love it. I mean, I don't love all of it. Sometimes I'm like, oh.
Yeah, there's always shit that we don't enjoy.
He's a cunt. Let's not talk about him.
I can't believe you just said that about Mark.
But it's like, if that didn't happen, we wouldn't be where we are right now, without a shadow of a doubt.
So would you say guilt and gratitude in equal measure?
Yes. No, more gratitude than guilt. A small amount of guilt. Which sounds weird because I feel like it's weird. I feel like I should feel more guilty, but I've worked so hard to not have regrets. I've worked so hard to find the gift in every situation that I couldn't possibly have too much guilt, because guilt means I'm only seeing one side of it.
Yeah. So this is a moving target because you probably felt, and again, this is why I wanted
at the time
practical things for people. Like you've got to go through that for you to get the gratitude. You've got to feel the guilt, because actually, if you didn't care, But would you say that that's increasing? Like it was, guilt in this measure and gratitude in this measure, and the balance
it outweighs
is changing.
itself all the time. Yeah. And I suppose every time I talk about it, when people say, "Oh, you and Lesley are this, you and Lesley are that," I'm like, "Oh."
Because you're so close to it.
Maybe we are.
It's normal for you.
Maybe we are. And do you know what? The most guilt I felt was probably around about 6 years later, when my friend Webby sent me a message and he said, "Have you listened to this podcast interview with Lesley?" And I was like, "No, she would hate it, me listening back." And he said, "Skip forward to this bit. I'm going to find this hard to say, so." said she almost let me do it because she hated seeing me in so much pain. Like, she almost was like, I'm going to let you do it. And then she also said, and this blew me head off because this couldn't have been further from the truth, that she thought I was suicidal because she was a shit wife. And that really hurts me to say that. So when I first heard that interview, I was like, oh, fuck me. Because I didn't know any of that. She didn't tell me any of that. I would never have, because I didn't think she was, I would never have thought that she thought that I thought she was.
She had no reason to feel that way, and in your mind it was furthest from the truth. But this...
Well, because it's all about me.
This also
when
cements...
I'm suicidal, when I'm rock bottom, there's no thoughts of anyone but me. Same when I create anxiousness, like I'm just thinking about me. You become very insular. Yeah. Because you got to consider at that point in my life, I'd isolate myself from everybody because I cut out all the negative people. And then I quickly realised no one left. No one left. Honestly, because everyone likes to complain.
You were the
what I
common
was doing was
denominator.
complaining about people complaining. It's mad, isn't it?
Do you know what, though? It's fascinating that to hear her side of the story, because quite
Blew my head off.
Yeah. But that it also shows kind of roles reversed. Yeah. That although you were so kind of encapsulated by how you were feeling, and so many people who suffer from any kind of mental health or
couldn't see a future, couldn't think of it, couldn't find it. Because the problem was also, you got to think about this, most of the things that I was doing was to feel better. Yeah. That's all.
Yeah. It was trying to
run
away from it.
And then it got to the point where I'm like, well, I'm doing everything I can. I mean, it wasn't obviously useful. Yeah. But how much booze and sniff can you do before it gets to the point where you're like, well, actually, I can't feel any better. Yeah. What do I do? I couldn't see any other ways to feel better.
I find it fascinating that she was feeling that way as well. Because actually that's
she couldn't get me any help. The help back then, she couldn't get me any help.
Is this why you moved into the world that you're into now in terms of coaching? Obviously started predominantly with men, coach women. Yeah. You mentor people, you help people. Do you see yourself as kind of the advocate for it? Because look, I understand it.
That's why many people do. That's why I think it works so well, because I didn't get into it really to do, especially not at the level we're doing it at now. It's fucking wild. But there was a couple of things that happened. I think what we do works so well because I'm teaching and sharing from first-hand experience. Yeah. We've changed a lot of the stuff that we do now, but it's practical as fuck. I'm a northern bloke. We're practical. But I got into it because a guy that I was working with, Garrett from Wake Up Warrior back in the time, I remember we did this event, and he was like, Paul, you need to be coaching men. You're born to do this. And I didn't believe any of that.
So this wasn't your idea? No. It was actually...
No, because I had successful businesses then anyway. I had Lean Greens at the time. I had the marketing muscle stuff back then. I didn't need to do it. Yeah. And then I suppose the second point where I was really like, this is for me. So the first thing I did was I did that Wake Up Warrior thing, and then I was like, I'm going to put this little thing together. Anyone can come and do it. Let's do it. It was a bit of the stuff that I learned from there. And then I suppose really when I was like, I must do this, was when people started coming towards me. Yeah. Without me doing loads of marketing. But people had seen my transformation. Yeah. People had seen that video as a big turnaround.
Coming to you being the real you.
Yes. Coming to me being the real me, and coming to me as I'd gone through this turnaround. Yeah. People are like, well, what's he doing?
You become a magnet for them.
Yeah, what's he? Are you still doing that weird meditation shit? Yes, I am. Paul, you feel different. I think my voice is probably even different. Like, people like, Paul, you're different. I'm like, do you know when normally you take that as oh, you've changed?
You've changed. Like, yes, I have.
I'm like, thanks for fucking noticing. I've been trying really hard.
It's cost me a fortune and a lot of stress to get here.
I'm just glad you paid me some attention and know that I've changed.
I need to know. I've got to remind me of that.
Yes.
Attention. Remind me of that. Keep going.
Okay, cool. So I kind of just... my speaking coach, Michael, hates it when I say this, but I did kind of stumble into it. Yeah. And a part of me didn't want to do it, actually.
Do you think it was that you didn't stumble into it? You went into it intentionally, but not really understanding
what it was going to look like, how big it was going to be. And I remember I actually went back to Laguna Beach, California, a couple of years after me and Mort went. Actually, they invited me out. They wanted me to become a trainer for them, so they invited me out to Laguna Beach, and we did this exercise, and it was something about limiting beliefs. And at this time, I'd had the same 8 to 10 guys in my program. Mm-hmm. It would be 8, one would leave, I'd get a couple more in. It would just be like this recurring program. 10, never beyond 10 people, which is mad. We've probably got 320 active people right now. This is fucking more than that probably. But at this point in my life, I was thinking, and one of the questions was like, what is this belief that's keeping you stuck? What's the bullshit story you believe in?
Yeah.
And I was on this business thing, and I was like, I can't build this business. But the reality was, in 2014, I made $1 million, so I knew how to build businesses.
Mm-hmm.
But there was the belief that I can't build this thing because I'll have a meltdown again.
Yeah, it was the fear.
Because
fear. You've done that, and
I didn't
look
think
what
fear of
happened.
success was a thing.
Yeah.
I'd be like, that's bullshit. No one's scared of. Why would you be scared of success? But that was my first thing. I was like, actually, I am scared of this working.
Purposely keeping yourself smaller.
Yeah, because I had a meltdown last time. I don't want to end up there again. And then I questioned it. I was like, well, actually, I'm not that guy anymore.
Yeah.
I've got a support system now.
You've changed.
I know. Do you know what I mean? I know what not to do. I know how to build the business bit, but then I'm like, well, what was I doing wrong then?
Yeah.
Well, I knew the business bit, but it was the rest of the shit that was fucked.
It's actually not
And that
what
was
you
a
needed
real-
to do. It's what you needed to stop doing.
That's exactly what it is. I think that a lot of the time when people are like, you know, when people get this comparison thing. Like, I remember there was a guy back in the day, and I still remember him. Mark might know who he is, and he was doing what I wanted to do, and I was like, this guy's fucking hasn't got a clue. He still lives with his parents, and he's got a man bun. But he was doing what I wanted to do because he might have a man bun, but he also had bigger balls than me because he was prepared to run paid ads to his stuff. I was too scared. Do you know what I mean? In case I got criticism, in case I got shit, in case I blew up again. So actually, I remember seeing one of his videos one day, and I was like, fuck this. What's he doing that I'm not?
Exactly that,
So stop comparing myself, and I was like, instead of, oh, why not me? Why am I not doing it? What is he doing that I'm not? Or what am I doing that he's not?
Yeah.
And I say that to the guys all the time in program, like, well, you're comparing, what's he doing that you're not then? Well, he's doing this, he's doing that. People, the guys are trying to get into speaking right now. Well, how are you doing this, Paul? I'm like, well, I'm going to the event that I'm not booked to speak on. And I'm paying for a ticket and I'm going to meet the organizer.
Yep.
That's the only reason I'm going. So the
Find
organizer
a route.
has no doubt who the fuck Paul Mort is by the time his event finishes. So that the next time he does it, he either hates me or he's like, Paul, you're on the stage, mate.
But as long as he feels something about
As long as he feels something, as long as I've made some kind of impression. So you got to look at, and that was me. I was like, what's he doing that I'm not? And the only difference was he wasn't playing a fucking tiny little game. And that was very transformative for me, actually. And I've kind of never looked back since then.
It's huge.
To be fair.
I asked you to remind me about attention, and the reason I said that is
detention.
Attention.
I've had a lot of them.
Detention.
I've had a lot of them.
I've
I've had a lot of them. It's how I got good at colouring in. It is. I remember one detention I got. I'll never forget this. It was the head teacher. And like I had no interest in colouring in because it takes a lot of patience. So I just went like this. This was in comp, year 11. I just went like this. She's like, Paul Mort, you need to stay behind for detention. And she taught me how to colour in. It's like I was fucking 15 years old. I was like, what am I... When is this ever going to come in handy? Do you know what I mean?
Do you use it regularly now?
Never, but I do have one of those colouring books, the mindfulness ones with swear words in it. Have you seen them ones?
Yeah, I've seen it.
So I've coloured in cunt. What?
On every page. Everything else.
Honestly, those swearing ones are amazing, but no, it's never came in useful for me. Just like most things at school, if I'm honest.
However, you've remembered it.
I have remembered it, and I tell the
You
kids
made
about
an
it all the time.
impact.
Max got his first detention last week.
What was it for?
Well, Max is a very efficient guy, so he always tries to find the easiest way to do things.
Smart boy.
Or the fastest way, or the best way. He's always
Please
looking
tell
for
me
that.
it's plagiarism or like
No, he
ChatGPT
does use
for a school.
ChatGPT all the time. I'll let him do it. I'm like,
Why
why
not?
wouldn't you?
They're being taught to you.
Why wouldn't you use ChatGPT to do your
Here's
homework?
a faster way of doing
Why
it, but
wouldn't
don't
you use
it.
You're not allowed to use calculator in exams. What the fuck for?
When am I ever going to be sat in the accountants and they go, here's the abacus, off you go?
I don't get it. But what he did was he takes a shortcult at school and they wouldn't let him take it. So he ended up being late. And then he got a detention. And he said he quite enjoyed it.
Because he learned how to colour in.
But yeah, I remember that. I remember that colouring in because it took patience. So we're talking about attention.
We were. Well done, bringing us back.
This is one of my favourite subjects.
So, when it comes to attention, you've mentioned earlier on that your dad was not the type of person who would say to you he felt X, Y, and Z, or didn't say that he was disappointed.
Yes.
You've openly admitted and like took ownership, which I love. Of this is me. I love attention. I thrive off it. It makes me better.
Show off.
You're the showman, and that's when you're really in your element. Where does that need for attention?
I didn't get enough when I was a
from?
kid. I'll tell you this. She might be listening, but she's heard me say it loads of times. I think my mum's told me she's proud of me once in my life. My dad's never told me he loves me, ever. But what I've came to realise, that doesn't mean that he doesn't. I know he does by his actions. And I know my mum's proud because she brags about me to other people.
Just
she doesn't do it to me.
Yep.
She doesn't tell me to me face. But Lesley always hears her bragging about me. My sister must hate it because I think she brags about what I'm doing to my sister. Do you know what I mean? I think she know. I don't know for a fact, but I could imagine that happening.
Remember that little ship from back in the day. Don't.
Do you know she'll just be telling you, you'll never guess what your brother's doing. He's doing this and he's doing that.
But she would never dream of coming to you and saying,
nah, what you fuck, no.
Has that made you become the
100%.
dad that you are saying, you know, you've wiped your own backside and really proud of you?
Yeah.
Oh, look, you've coloured inside the lines.
Yeah, well,
Nina's
got the lead part in the school play.
Nice.
She's playing Princess Fiona and Shrek.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, and she's just joining a drama club. She's actually going to a different school to Max. She wants to go to this other school. It's a private school. I didn't give a fuck where they want to go.
Yeah.
So Max is in a normal school full of loads of scrotes.
Normal.
There's loads of scrotes, like a normal school. And I like him being there. He loves it. But Nina was like, Dad, can I go to this school? Because so-and-so goes there. And I said, oh, this is how mad she is. I said, what about all your friends? She went, I'll just make new ones. Like, fucking hell. You can't teach that. You can't teach that, can you? But she'll take over a conversation. Mate,
I think
we were on holiday with Russell Kane a few weeks ago. Nina's telling him jokes. This guy's a world-famous comedian. She goes, Russell, I've got a joke for you. She doesn't give a shit who people are at all. She meets famous people that you'd normally, like, not be bothered. She doesn't give a fuck.
But that's because she's always been around it.
We're at an event, and James Smith, who's quite a big deal now, she'd be like, what are they on your feet? Just take the piss out of him. But where was I at there? Oh, centre of attention. I firmly believe that the reason I can do the stuff I do on the stage, the reason I love being on the stage, the reason I love doing the comedy stuff is because I wasn't given that platform when I was a kid.
I believe that every single person, I stand on stages, you know, there's a fat kid inside of me who needs to be loved. That's why. We've all got a void inside. I mean, there's a fat person outside of me in a minute.
Stop it.
I know. No, see, you said you needed someone to tell you, and it really pisses me off. I'm going to shout at you now. No, I want people to not blow smoke up your arse and go, you're not. I am. I'm 3.5 stone heavier than I should be.
Oh, well, there you go.
That's
3.5
not
stone
acceptable.
Heavier. That doesn't mean you're fat, though.
Okay, the
just
scales.
Means you're 3.5 stone heavier.
The scales that tell me your fat percentage is like this big, that's what's telling me.
They're inaccurate.
But...
Oh, the shite. How can they tell your body fat percentage? By standing on them and putting your fucking height and weight in.
Right, when your jeans scream, that's my...
Yeah, I get the top of me, the waistband on me boxer shorts folds over.
Oh, when shit rolls down, you know. Yeah, and this, like, that practice what we preach is what we say. I believe that every single person who stands on a stage, whether it be whatever their art form is, musician, you know, they stand this side of the camera. We all need something. We're filling a void of some sort. Yeah. And we do it for free. Ownership.
And we do it, the more people there, the better.
But then, that's where the income comes in. Because when you get, because like we all earn a lot of money doing the things that we do. I always say I would do this. Like we were talking before, I stand on Rob's stages. I'm like, don't tell Rob, but I'd do it for free. Don't tell him because I'm not doing it for free. If I'm going to get paid for it, I'm going to do it. We earn a nice life doing it. But I think that's when you remove yourself from the outcome. Yeah. When you're standing on a stage or when you're going on a podcast and demanding payment for it, that's a different exchange. Yeah. That's a whole different
This is what I mean by values, you know, because values are the things that you don't need incentive. I don't need an incentive. I love getting paid for it, and I actually believe I'm that good I should get paid. Yeah. That's what I believe.
But you choose. I'm not paying you.
I don't. Well, you're paying Mark, and he'll do all the reels.
Exactly.
So I'll just be taking them off you.
Exactly.
But it's like the things that you value the most are the things that you don't need reminded to do, the things that you don't need incentivized to do, the things that you don't need willpower to do, the things that you don't need accountability to do.
You don't even need discipline because you just want to do them.
That's exactly what it is. You just want to do them. And actually, Dr. John DeMartini, who I've done loads of work with, Rob has as well, actually, he says that your biggest values come from your biggest voids.
It's true.
So I clearly have a void in that area of
attention
being on stage and being in attention. Do you know what's mad in coaching as well? We'll do a big war room where I answer loads of questions, and people get worried about asking questions because they feel like they're putting me out. I'm like, mate,
you're paying for this.
Not at that, but also, I love you asking me a question because I get to fucking show off. Yeah. That's legit what answering questions is, showing off.
But there's not enough people who are honest enough to say that. And I think sometimes you'll get, like, because I openly admit I'm very much an open book on stage. I teach property investment, but I start by saying, I don't love property, I never will. It's a vehicle. It is a vehicle for cash flow. I don't like tenants. I don't enjoy the ins and outs of property. But actually the reason I do that is it gives me the opportunity to have more time, more money. Yes. More time, more money means I can stand on a stage and I can speak and I can train and I can, you know, be at my kids' athletics or take them to the taekwondo competitions.
In a helicopter.
But
Hey kids, come on, get in the chopper. I ain't getting no plane. It's in a Scouse accent. I ain't getting no plane.
Not getting on that plane,
Mate.
dickhead.
I'm not getting on that plane, mate.
No, you have to say dickhead with
No,
a
it's
Z
lad,
at the
innit? It's
beginning.
lad. Lad, I'm not getting on that plane, lad.
Is that your Scouse accent?
But
it is.
via
this
Bangladesh.
Island.
Yeah.
But the reality is that we do these things because we're filling a void, but it's only when... And the reason I'm making light of that is I've been there when I was very first starting out in speaking and selling.
Boring, by the way.
Property is
I say this all the time. I actually invest in property, but I invest in the people who then who invest it. So we have properties. I just bought a fucking hotel, but I have nothing to do with it because I get the benefit of property. I get the upside, but I have no fucking interest in learning about. Me and Lesley did a little bit, and I was like, this is fucking shit. Boring. I don't know what half these words mean.
But I still think everyone needs to do it. Like, that's why I will, with volition, stand on a stage and go, everyone needs to do property.
Yeah.
It's legacy. It's being passed on generationally. It's the reason my kids can do be and have whatever they want to be, but they're not just walking into it and owning the properties. They're going to understand. Yeah. And that comes kind of full all the way back to Max, is that little ears are always listening. And when you said, you know, you can't teach that about Nina, well, actually you did. Yeah. You might not have sat her down and gone, you need to give zero fucks, you need to have banter with everyone. Yeah. They're watching what we're doing.
It's a funny thing, you know, because, Tony, we're in this place with Nina right now where she likes to interrupt. She likes to sing, and it does me fucking head in sometimes.
Is it like there's a mirror being held up?
I was told to shut up so much when I was a kid. At school, at clubs... by my parents, told to shut up.
Do you find yourself doing that with her?
I have to catch myself. Yeah. Because part of me's like, she is being annoying. She's singing at the top of her voice. But I also think, how happy must she be to walk around the house singing all the time? But then I'm like, fucking hell, you were doing my head in. And Max was like, Nino, you just shut up. So I'm just in this fine. But if I tell her to shut up so many times, will she eventually just shut up? That clearly happened to me at some point in my life. Where I was working in factories and I was doing jobs that I hated because I'd shut up. Like, how many times you tell someone to shut up before they just shut up and be like, there's no point in doing this? It's like, really Max doesn't compete for attention anymore. Like, he stopped competing for attention, so there's not much arguing anymore, but he's gone to a point where, actually, I'm just going to give up here. There's no point in me competing for attention now. There's no point. He's not going to win. I'm not even going to win. Lesley will go like, Paul, you're arguing with a fucking 10-year-old, man. What are you doing? But
that's the hardest argument, though.
Yeah, it is,
Well, at similar ages, I've got a 10-year-old, 13, almost 14-year-old.
Yeah.
And the amount of times I'm like, I'm going to leave the room because if this were in the street and you were anyone else, I would literally headbutt you. And
this is the funny thing. Like I don't want to be careful. You almost don't want to beat that confidence out of them a little bit. I'm like, stop being so forward, Nina. But then at the same time, I'm like...
If she wasn't, you'd be saying...
stop being so shy. That's what I have to do with them. They're so opposite each other.
Hardest job in the world.
It's the best as well, though.
Without a shadow
of a doubt. You know what it's like? It's like business, right? I think business is the best job in the world, but also hard as fuck.
Yep.
And people only see that part because I'm like...
simple, but not easy.
It's equally rewarding as it is challenging. Yeah. The same as parenting. Like, you think about in business, I'm like, my favourite part about business is that I'm responsible for my income. Also, my least favourite part about business is that I'm responsible for my income and loads of other people's.
Yeah.
So that's but the kids, the parents' thing's the same. Like, you get the best job in the world, but also the fucking worst job.
Well, you mentioned John DeMartini.
I'm responsible for keeping 2 humans alive.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
Do you ever have that realisation, though, and I still have this, where, well, there's 2. One of them is when they'll shout mum, and I'm a bit like, shit, I'm a mum. And I've been a mum for nearly 14 years and I still find that. But then other times there will be instances because I'm like a big kid at heart and I'm the serious person when I need to be, but I'm stupid.
I'm very mature.
Like, no, you're not. It's literally could not be further from the truth. But I think when you own that, like I have this thing when my husband always knows when I'm tired because you know the way some people when they're tired they get grumpy.
Oh, I'm a bellend.
I'm hilarious when I'm tired.
Oh, really?
I find myself really funny and I'll just start giggling at nothing and Chris will be like, are you tired? And I'm like, yeah, chuckling away to myself. Yeah, I'm just stupid. But I also think, ADHD brain.
We're talking about mums.
Talking about being a mum, that realisation when sometimes you go, how has anyone allowed me to be responsible for these little people?
Do you know I find that, Tony, if I'm away, I fucking hate being away from my kids. That's why I take them everywhere. If you want me for a speaking gig, and it's on a weekend, you have to pay me, but you also have to pay for my kids to come. Like, you need to pay for them to come, or I'm not coming. You also need to get tickets for the match. Really?
I'm away a lot.
Yeah.
But, and this, I don't think enough people are honest about this. I am a better mum because I'm away a lot.
You're better when you're back.
Because when I'm back, I'm fully present. I'm there. I've missed them. Like, you know, when people are like, I've missed my kids because they're at school. I'm like, oh my God, it's given me a break. Yeah. Because I adore my children. Yeah. And they are. I still like to have me space when I'm on holiday.
Leslie's like, you need to go and do your thing now, don't you? Yeah, fuck off. I'm like, what is it? It's go for a walk. It's read on my own.
So, you know, my holidays are like, come and sit by me, come and be by me. So yeah. I think the whole lesson there is understanding, one, who you are, and two, being comfortable going, this is me and this is what I need. Because I get a lot of that from people. Yeah. Sometimes it's verbalised and sometimes it's just a look. When you're like, I'm away for 5 days. I left my house. I don't even know what day we're on. Thursday. I left my house on Tuesday morning. Yeah. I'll go home Saturday night.
I think, you know what I love about being away? You're teaching your kids as well. This is what I think. This is how I get my head around. I'm like, actually, yeah, you have to leave your hometown.
Absolutely.
You have to leave your hometown and go and seek out these opportunities. So when I did Everest Base Camp recently, I really struggled with that. What are the kids going to do? I have this thing they say quite a lot. I hear them saying it sometimes. Where's Dad? When's Dad going to be home?
Is that like a little guilt voice?
I get really emotional when I hear those words. And I'm not even there. Yeah. Where's Dad? When's Dad going to be home? And that makes me feel shit. But at the same time, when I went to base camp, I was like, well, I'm teaching these a lot here.
Huge things
Dad's going to take on a challenge. You realise that you have to travel sometimes if you want to win at things. So there's that. We've said it all along here. There's that double-edged sword. Yeah. And I ended up coming home 6 days early and surprising them.
Oh, and it's the best feeling in the world. Like, I don't think I'd get so the confused.
Hugs. I've never seen anything like it.
The realisation when you walk through the door.
She was like, what? And then Max was all over me, which is not his thing. He was all over me and she was going, what?
But you would never have had that reaction had you not gone away. No. Because I definitely still have a lot. And as I say, it's not always verbalised. Sometimes when you're like, I'm away for 5 days, you get like, oh yeah, it's a choice. Yeah. And also, it's full tilt the other way because my husband used to work 12-hour shifts, Monday to Friday. Yeah. My favourite picture of Chris and the boys, most people would look at and be like, it's the shittest picture ever. Yeah. It's the back of the three of them. Yeah. And it's Chris holding the boys' hands.
Yeah, I love how like that.
Taking Owen to his first day in infant school and Oliver to his first day in nursery. Yeah. And the reason it's so important is he could never have done that when he was in a job. Yeah. So the reason we've done all of those things, look, we've got pictures of them in amazing places. They've had unreal experiences.
Are your kids in a place where they don't know how fucking good they've got it?
I think my eldest
kids will sometimes say you're always working. I'm like, I'm fucking, you haven't got a clue about what work is.
No.
I'm never home after 4 o'clock.
Hard. That's the balance, isn't it?
Weird eye. And then you get the thing with the money. Should I buy them this? Should I not buy them this? How much pocket money should they get? Should I make them work for it?
But then in the same way, it's like you want them to have everything that you didn't, but in the same way, you don't want them to just have everything.
It's also, I find that really hard.
It's the hardest part.
Yeah. But should I really let him have that?
Sometimes it's, well, I've done that. I remember we were going to, this is really wicked. I decided, so when I'm a massive Foo Fighters fan, when Taylor Hawkins passed away, I was like, we're going to the gig. And I booked tickets. I was looking at them and it was a nightmare getting tickets.
Are they on tour right now?
They are.
Aye.
Yeah, last week and this week.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So I looked at it and I'm like, fuck, there's only the tickets. You know, I'm doing that thing with 2 laptops and a phone. You're trying to get tickets. You've got every man and his dog helping you. And the only tickets I could get were like the ridiculously expensive, this side of the stage, amazing. Yeah. And I had that split second, do it, don't do it. And I went, I'm going to book for me and Chris. Yeah. Can't justify spending that on the kids. They were like 7 and 10 or something. Yeah. And then immediately I'm like, why the fuck am I doing what I'm doing if it's not to give them experiences? So then I booked another 2 tickets. Now, the 2 tickets were 2 tickets at 1 row and 2 tickets are 2 rows back, but still on an end. And I'm like, fab. I got bailed on for I looked like a loner in a seated section at a gig. Way. Like, there I am on my own because the kids bailed on me and went and stood with Dad. Yeah. But when you hear first of all, it's what that does for them because the amount of people who came up to us going, oh my God, how old are you? And Ollie's like 7. They're like, oh, you're the... Well, I love the whole people going, you've got the best mum and dad in the world. And I was like, yes, you have. But it comes back to that quote. People will forget what you said, what you did, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel.
You get like, they then start to get like, why we're not business class, Dad?
Oh no, I haven't had that yet.
Do you know what I mean? Why we're not staying at the Atlantis? Why we're not doing this? And
why are we downgrading to this 5-star hotel?
That's another interesting piece, like... But then we'll go to somewhere like Thailand and they'll love that and you can't spend your fucking money in Thailand. We took them on a place, it's a floating island, right? And it's rough as fuck. right? Really, there's kids begging and that, and my kids, I'm so glad to see that because they had their eyes opened like fuck.
Context for them, isn't it?
Oh, total context for them, and I think that's why I quite like Max going to a normal school as well because he's just.
I love the fact that you call it normal.
That's normal school. I don't know what it's called normally. Type of school that I went to, council school. Is that what it's called?
I'm
State
from a rough
school, is that what it's
council
called?
estate in Liverpool, but I went to an all-girls Catholic high school.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. See, this is the thing, because people go, oh my God, really? And I'm like, yeah, but its nickname was, it was on a hill, Slags on a slope. Oh. So it just, because it comes down to perspective.
Well, when I was at school, I'd have been waiting at the bottom. See who slid down.
The all-boys school. So we used to, when you look back now and think, what a world, we used to have to do cross-country. So, but your cross-country you had to do in a leotard. So you would be in a leotard, running around a field.
Past the all-boys school.
With the all the lads would just be over the fence because they'd know when, over the...
I'd have been, oh my God, when I was at school, I was a walking hard on. honestly, I was a nightmare. Oh, wow. That period of me, I used to have to tuck my dick in my waistband all the time. All the time.
That's definitely going to be a clip for this, isn't it? What was the best part of the podcast? There we go.
Dick in a waistband. Mad. Helmet pointing out over the top. Wow. I've took that to a new level, haven't I?
That's a whole new level. Yeah. I like the fact that you're comfortable enough to have that conversation.
You know what's funny? I say this all the time. Being able to joke a little bit about those darker things, I think is quite important.
You've just got to be comfortable in it.
I learned this. I've actually somehow, my mates asking me, best friends from school, asking, how are you mates with like these ex-SAS guys? I'm like, I don't fucking know, but every time I've met them, I've got on really well with them. And I asked my friend Ollie Alton about it. He was like, Paul, it's because you got a sick sense of humour. Like us. Like, they have to have that. Imagine that. You're an SAS. You've killed fucking loads of people. You've seen your friends blown up and that. And I've got a friend that's a fireman. He says, I'm very close with him as well. And he said, they have to have this dark sense of humour as well. And I think it's important.
To counterbalance the
I think it's important. I can not joke over it, but kind of talk about it and then be able to make add humour to it, light of it, because although it was heavy at the time, I think people want to hear that there is something on the other side of it.
It's the lesson in it, isn't it, for people? And you'll often hear people, that's why loads of people are doing great things on podcasts, because they're willing to talk about the things that not everyone is willing to talk about. They're willing to go there. Yeah.
And it also, it's a fucking heavy thing to carry, not talking about it. It's heavy.
That comes all of the way back to the, who've you got to talk to about it?
It's heavy. It's heavy. And it's funny, because I don't like this narrative that's being pushed, especially in men's mental health, that people are depressed because they don't talk. I don't buy into that narrative at all.
So what's your belief around it?
So my belief, people, it's just pushed that, I think talking's great, right? But it doesn't cook fucking rice.
Oh, I like that phrase. Yeah, I've heard that a few times.
Bruce Lee, I think. Talking doesn't cook rice. So talking could be the thing that makes you feel a little bit better. It could give you because what helped me at the time, it doesn't really now, but when I got diagnosed bipolar, I was like, actually, that explains a lot. But I was determined that it wasn't become a label. Yeah. Like, I'm not bipolar. I don't have it. I mean, I've never taken meds for it since 2018. So I'm like, am I still bipolar? Am I? Do I still have it? I don't know.
Or is it just your personality?
Is it just, I don't know what it is. So, but I think that this narrative of just talk about it, and that'll make it better. I don't think it's a thing. Like, so for example, if you talk about it and continue doing the same shit that led you there, you just fucking wasted a load of gas.
So what should people do? What's the answer?
Well, I think part of them's got to take responsibility for where they're at. And again, this might be different for other people, I don't know, but I didn't end up on the cliff by accident. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a fucking consequence of my habits, my habitual thinking. So it is something to do with this. My habitual actions, the way that I treat my body, the things that I surrounded myself, what my palate was like. So palate's like what you watch, what you read, what you listen to, who you listen to, what's in your environment. Yeah. So my palate was all over the place. So have a look at that for a start. So you see your consumption. That was what I had to do, and then obviously you got to start looking at your habits and changing them. I think one of the fastest things you can do to change your life is, you mentioned it at the start, is to change your peer group a little bit. Yeah. Get around people that are excited about the future. I think that's I find that intoxicating. Being around people that are more interested in talking about the future than talking about someone else's past. Yep. That's most people.
Do you not
get on the tables where they're not talking shit about other people, they're talking about their future.
But do you not think you have to talk about the past because that fuels the future?
Sometimes.
So using it to fuel.
Sometimes. I mean, I did a video about Gary Vee the other day, and I like some of Gary Vee stuff. But he had this quote which was, "Stop looking backwards, it fucks with your neck." I'm like, well, actually, I find looking backwards very useful.
Yeah.
If it's done skillfully. So looking backwards skillfully would be, okay, well, what's gone well? What's worked for me? What progress have I made? What have I achieved? Who have I impacted?
Well, because if we don't look back, we're not. Well, how do we know what's working and what isn't?
Well, that's where confidence comes from.
Yeah.
Also, confidence comes after, not before.
Yeah.
You get self-belief from benchmarks, and measuring backwards usefully can be useful. But also, I mean, I heard Dr. John say this possibly, which is anything in my past that I can't say thank you for will keep running my life until I can.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm looking back skillfully, this is part of the reason why I don't like a lot of therapy and counselling, because you just talk about the past and don't change anything.
But it stops there just talking about the past.
Yeah, you don't change the frame that you've got it in. You don't change the meaning that you're attaching to it. You just keep talking about it.
Or the narrative, because sometimes we remember things in a different way than they actually happened.
Well, 50% of your memories apparently are untrue.
50%?
50% of your memories are made up. Think about what's a memory. It's your imagination. Even thinking about your future, your imagination.
That's true.
So 50% of your memories apparently in research has been proven to be untrue.
So it's that.
So 50% of the thing that happened to you, 50% of it didn't actually happen.
So like part of it happened, but we've made this scenario
you
around
imagine
it.
Peter Sage, who I was coaching with in 2020, Peter's fucking amazing. And he says that the past is just the past, with your imagination filling in the gaps. And this is my favourite part, adding all of the meaning.
Ooh.
So it's sometimes not the thing that's the problem, it's the meaning you've attached to it.
Absolutely.
Here's why they did that. That was my fault. This was this. If you can change the meaning, then this thing that happened takes on a whole new fucking life.
Yeah. Well,
that's why I can look back and say, actually, I'm really glad that happened. Anything, even me falling out with people, hurting people, getting arrested, fighting, I can look back and think, actually, that was good for me. But also at some point, that's, do you know what I mean? We can look back at a lot of things. You think, if you've ever had your heart broken or been cheated on, at the time it was heartbreaking, but you look back on it and you think, fuck me, I'm glad that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true.
So I think the faster you can do that, the more you become unfuckwittable. Yeah,
it's how far away from it you are as well.
Yes.
And some people will dwell on it forevermore. Yeah.
Stay in the weeds.
But then is there a risk of...
You stay a victim to it.
Is there a risk the other side, though, where you go, oh, it didn't affect me, fuck it, move on? Is there a risk of not letting it?
I don't think there is.
No?
No, I don't think there is. I don't see any point in rehashing something that I can't change anyway.
But then we have to visit it to see where our
and what we've got to think about, I think, Tony, is what I do with these things. That this used to crush me. I'd be like, why don't I feel positive about that? But then I was like, actually, I'm not trying to feel positive about something that was shit. I'm trying to just get a bit more balance. I'm trying to get neutral about it.
Yeah.
You think about that. If there's no negative without a positive, that doesn't mean the positives are going to outweigh the negatives and everything. So I just try to find the bit in the middle.
Yeah.
I worked with a lady, Mark. I remember 2015, I worked with a lady called Byron Katie. She has a concept called loving what is. And loving what is, think about love. What's love? It's positive and negative. You can't love anything that you don't know both sides of. That's infatuation. If it's just positive, that's infatuation. If it's just negative, that's resent. And they're both skewed. So you think about your husband, Mark. Have I got that right? Chris?
No, sorry, Chris, I'm not.
Mark's over there.
Sorry, we're not
Mark's
married.
husband's called Mark. But you think about someone that you love, you could point out minimum 10 things that gets on your tits about him.
Oh, absolutely. And he could do the same with me.
But you love him anyway.
Know each other.
But you love him anyway.
Well, I do. I adore him.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you love...
It's true.
The people that you love the most will often have a lot of negative traits,
I
things
adore
that
my
irritate
kids,
about
but
you.
there's things that annoy the life out of me, and vice versa.
Yeah.
I know they love
it's
me,
mad,
but
isn't it? And we've all met someone that you were infatuated with. A girl that I was infatuated with, then she farted. And I was like, ooh. Do you know what I mean? And then she did something that I didn't really like. And then I'm like, actually, I was infatuated with that. And then
that just made it real.
Yeah. And when you fall in love with somebody, you accept all of the goods and all of the bads and all of the negatives and all the positives and all the upsides and all the downsides. Do you know all of that?
Comes back to the Dr. John D. Martini.
That's exactly where I learned it from.
Yeah. Challenge.
Yeah. Homeostasis.
Equal challenge and opportunity.
Yeah. So it's the same thing with these kind of so-called negative events. I'm just trying to get more balance. I'm trying to get neutral. I'm trying to get to this point of love. And almost so I can be more objective about things. So it's not always about feeling positive. I think, because I remember when I first started getting into the personal development world, I thought I was fucked. I thought there was something wrong with me because I didn't feel positive all the time.
But
I didn't feel positive all the time, therefore, and this happens to a lot of people. Well, I'm not happy, that means I'm broke. No, you're not supposed to feel happy all the time.
Do you know what this reminds me of? Felix Dennis. Have you ever read?
Oh, the money guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he tells the story in one of his books about how he was always searching for something, because we think, and this comes back to, I suppose, you're, in 2014 when you've perceived to be having everything, is that everyone's perception was, How to Be Rich is the book that he'd written.
Yeah.
And he's talking about how he made money, but then that wasn't enough. He was searching for the next thing, and then he started drinking, and that wasn't enough. And then it was drugs, and then it was prostitutes. And he almost killed himself. And that it took that for him to realise none of that stuff mattered.
Yeah.
And then we remove ourselves from the outcome. And actually, when you remove yourself from the outcome, you're no longer looking for it.
No.
You find more people fall in love with you and love what you're doing.
And
you find that you make more
happiness
money.
is such a fucking... All of these positive emotions, they're often fleeting for a start, but they're impermanent. They're not... Emotions aren't supposed to be permanent. I think I've heard this saying, which is emotions like energy in motion. It moves and it circles all the time.
Yep.
And you can actually... I can feel happy by just thinking about things that make me feel happy. That's not mad.
That's where the past comes in. Though,
you can feel happy, but I can be happy about my future. I can be excited.
Yeah.
So you think about this, like Peter Sage said this to me. He said, happiness is the result of thinking happy thoughts, right? But we don't give ourselves permission to think happy thoughts until the outside world matches our pictures of how we think it should look. So, like, in Felix's case, he's like, when I've got the car, then I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But actually, he wouldn't give himself permission to think these happy thoughts until he had the car. And I've done that.
Humans are weird. We're weird.
Very fucking weird.
We're weird.
But then kind of simple at the same time. Just fucking big apes.
Some of us are more simple than others. I would definitely say that.
I mean, that's super simple. But it's really interesting. And that's something that I had to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, actually, do you know what I found about chasing things, right? And I'm still very much in the... I think everyone needs something that they're moving towards.
Yeah, God, yes.
I think we need a mission. I think we need a sense of purpose, which comes from goals. I think especially men, we don't have a mission at a certain... That's what happened to me in 24. I didn't have a mission anymore. I'd made it. And then I wondered what was next. And then I felt bad because why would I want anything else? I've got everything, apparently.
So what's your purpose and your mission now?
So my purpose that I'm working towards right now is I want to build this cult.
An actual
I'm
cult.
at the level where I'm getting accused of having a cult, which I'm very proud of.
But it's the type of cult that makes people happier and wealthier.
Everyone's in a cult.
Yep, we all are.
A lot of us are in some kind of cult. So I'm like, I'm getting accused of having a cult, which is music to my fucking ears. So I'm looking to build that up. Obviously, I've got this book coming out. I'm looking to build the comedy stuff. I'm looking to get on this. These are all little goals that I'm working towards. I'm looking to get me purple belt in jiu-jitsu. Nice. I've just got all these little... That's my sense of... I don't believe that purpose is what I was born to do. It's just a sense, a feeling that I get when I'm excited about my future, things that I'm moving towards. So I'm a big, big believer in that.
But all of those things come full circle back to what you're talking about your values. Right?
Yeah, and here's what I think's important, right? I think I love the chase also. It's not about the end thing where you've talked about being detached. It's not... I want the end thing, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I love that. The thrill. I love the thrill of the fucking chase. I love the thrill of getting someone pump me unconscious in jiu-jitsu. Do you know what I mean? I love the thrill of doing a gig in front of 6 fucking people.
So actually, you're not chasing the result, you're chasing the feelings.
All the way through.
Yeah.
All the way through. And of course, you're sometimes going to have to eat shit. I haven't had my first heckler yet, but I can't wait. I would not fancy heckling me. I'd love that.
I am just sitting here thinking, who can I pay to come and heckle?
Brilliant. They will hate their life by the time that's over.
So it's like someone I don't like.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Like I like that. I like the pain and the challenge and all that.
That's a decision as well, isn't it? To embrace all of the downside, to really enjoy the upside.
That's exactly what it is. I think that all of those things are the cost of entry to getting where you want to get to. Do you know what I mean? When people talk to me about, oh, Paul, I've just got too much self-doubt, I'm like, that's the fucking ticket to get to the next level.
It's a gift.
If you didn't have self-doubt, you're playing too small.
That's
like
true.
It's feedback that you're doing something important. It's an alarm clock that you're about to experience something big or growth. Do you know what I mean? If you don't feel self-doubt, there's something fucking wrong with you. You're under a bar that's too light. Like in a gym context, you're under a bar that's too light if you know you can lift it. If you don't know you can lift it, that's where you get fucking pecs and triceps and that. You get the big biceps, triceps, and triceps. Yeah, science, innit? So yeah, it's but yeah, and I love that. I like that feeling, and I think that you'll know this in business, right? I think the main thing you've got to be able to deal with is uncertainty.
Oh, it's the hardest,
but I like that feeling.
Do we not thrive on it? Though?
I do. It's energy. How much energy you get when you're uncertain and scared and nervous and self-doubt and worried about people saying things and worried about it not working?
To the meaning you're attaching to
it. It is. I love that. I'm like, imagine if you're not nervous before you get on the stage. I'm like, where'd you get your energy from?
It means you don't care.
Where'd you get your energy from if you're not nervous?
That's true.
It's the right amount of energy so I can put on a fucking show. Of course I'm nervous.
Do you feel depleted after you've done something like that? Like when you come out,
Oh,
yes, the adrenaline's still there, but
there's
is
the
it like
adrenaline
a
of
switch?
taking selfies
Yeah.
and fucking sometimes signing things, which I find really weird.
When you say signing things, do you mean things like books or
tits.
boobs or yeah? Just checking. I knew there was something.
I'm a big
at
fan.
horse
I'm a big
cracks.
fan. I'm a big fan. And normally it's the tits signing me because I'm a big fan. But but it's this. After all that dies down, there is an element of deflation.
There's another void.
Yeah,
and
there's
that's why you
deflation.
chase
The
the
worst
next
I've ever
gig.
felt it was when I did that theatre gig with 1,200 people, just there to see me. Amazing things at the end. Me family there, me kids there, me mum and dad there, all my oldest mates there, celebrities there. And afterwards, I was like, oh fuck.
But that's
we had an
'cause
after
the high's
party.
so high.
It was so high. We had an after party where we booked this entire club, amazing club, and I was there for 20 minutes.
Because you were done.
It's like, this is too much. It's not really anything you can describe. I'm high for maybe an hour after.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh fuck! It's like
But then
it's
that's
like
the
a
cycle.
deflated balloon.
That's the cycle though, because then
I'm just
that's
like,
how
when's the
you
next
chase
one?
the next one.
When's the fucking next one?
So have you replaced previous needs or addictions or whatever you want to come? Because actually all of those things, you mentioned it before, you were either running away from a feeling or
Yeah.
running towards
1,000,000%.
relief.
I replaced cocaine with boxing, straight up. Discovering boxing changed me fucking life, because I still remember the day I would snort coke in the middle of the day on my desk, dry lining it's called, horrible. And I'd do that, and then I still remember the first time I was out of shape and I'd hit the pads with me mate. And one day he said, "Do you fancy sparring?" I was like, "Ooh, I haven't got a gum shield." He's like, "Fuck it, let's just spar." And he punched me in the face, and I was like, "Ooh, I like this." And then that led me on to all sorts of different things. I mean, I was actually, can you remember Towie? Do you know
Towie,
Towie?
yeah.
Can you remember Arj off Towie?
Yes.
I've been taught about fighting him on Misfits.
Shut up.
However, I went back to boxing. I felt great, but my elbows are fucked. I couldn't make a fist for 3 weeks. But then boxing led me to jiu-jitsu, and then I've made some amazing friends in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Jiu-jitsu is the thing that probably keeps me straighter and saner than anything else.
Mm-hmm. So you've just replaced things with other more healthy,
healthier
more
habits,
sustainable habits.
So I get the buzz, I get the camaraderie that you'd get from boozing on a night out.
Yeah.
I get the buzz, I get the banter, I get the friends, I get the social element, I get all of that shit.
Love it.
And it's just in a different fucking way. So yeah.
Absolutely love it. Paul, I could sit and talk to you all day, but I am also conscious of your time.
Thank you so much.
I've got one question.
What was it?
See, the only one that's ever prepared. I ask it of all of my guests. What is the one question no one's ever asked you, and you think, why does no one ask that question?
Ooh, why does no one ask that question?
I've just silenced Paul Mort.
You have just silenced Paul Mort. What I will say is that whatever answer I give you now will be different in 10 minutes.
Absolutely.
I'm still thinking on it.
I'm then very smart in the way I do this, because that then means we've got to come back and do another podcast so that we can answer that question. Are you up for a round 2?
It would be about football.
Go on.
No, I haven't got it.
Okay.
It would just be
best player ever.
Best player in history.
Yep, ever.
Leo Messi. Best Sunderland player ever. That's what I wanted to ask me. Really.
There you go. There's
my
the one
favourite
question.
Sunderland player ever would be a little Scottish fella called Alex Ray.
Why?
He was a midfielder, which I like playing. He always wanted the ball. He was hard as fuck, and he could score a goal. He's been sent off for headbutting people and that.
So basically, you've picked someone who you think, if I were a footy player, that would be who I'd be.
He could play alongside me. Hard little Scottish fella, right?
I love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.